On today's show, we are going to talk NFL team level futures. By that, I mean over under on win totals, odds to make or miss the playoffs, odds to win your division, odds to win the Super Bowl, et cetera, et cetera. Maybe some early week one stuff we'll get to at the end as well. My first one revolves around the Minnesota Vikings. Over 8.5 wins is minus 135, plus 104 to make the playoffs, plus 400 to win the division, 10-1 to win the NFC. I don't think people give this defense enough credit. I mean, I think their defense could legit be top 5 in the NFL, especially up front. And then you also get this really good offensive line. You get really good weaponry. And I think the reason you can get kind of these longish numbers on the Vikings is A, everybody thinks the Lions are, indestructible, which we'll get to in a second. And B, people don't know what to think about J.J. McCarthy. I'm of the belief that if J.J. McCarthy is even an average NFL quarterback, that this scheme and Kevin O'Connell will make him look like a star or an above average, at least, NFL quarterback. So I'm on the Vikings over stuff here. I mean, if you guys want to roll dice, some of the super long shot stuff that you can get is these exactas that almost all the books offer now. In other words, can you say exactly what will happen in the Super Bowl? Chiefs beat Vikings in the Super Bowl is 95-1. Bills beat Vikings in the Super Bowl is 75-1. So I know that some people out there may think we're too high on JJ McCarthy, and the Vikings were way above ADP in fantasy also on JJ McCarthy right now. Evan, any more thoughts on Vikings stuff heading into the season?
Yeah, I like them to win the Super Bowl at 30-1. I'm a huge fan of what they did with their interior offensive line. Over the past several seasons, their interior offensive line got pushed around and pushed back. And this offseason, they used a first-round pick on Donovan Jackson to play left guard, and they signed Ryan Kelly and Will Fries from the Colts, who obviously have played together. So you like to see that chemistry coming over from Indianapolis. And they have two of the best starting offensive tackles in the league in Christian Darrisaw and Brian O'Neill. They are loaded on the defensive line. Like the Vikings won a lot of games last year, but I think that their roster is considerably better now than it was last year. I don't know if they'll necessarily win as many games, but I think that their team is better. Brian Flores is a talent maximizer on defense. Kevin O'Connell is a talent maximizer on offense. One thing to note that people don't really talk about with J.J. McCarthy is this dude is an unbelievable athlete. He ran 4.48 in the 40-yard dash with a 6.82 three-cone. If he is given opportunities to run, he can be a game-breaking runner. And then we all often talk about the infrastructure that is here with the receivers and the system.
Yeah.
So I like the Vikings at 8.5 wins. That is, I think, a knock on wood cinch, and I think they can win the Super Bowl.
Yeah. Tyler, obviously, Evan and I have both talked about the Vikings a lot. Any concerns for you on Viking side? Or are you on this train?
I haven't made a play on the Vikings. My biggest concern would be that it's difficult for a first-year starting quarterback, to come in a very competitive division and take over. I do think you can lean into the potential chaos of the NFC North, because out of all 8 divisions, I don't think any in the NFL has a more evenly dispersed win probability for all 4 teams in the NFC North. Like, there are 4 legitimately 500 or better playoff caliber teams in that division. Maybe you could argue the AFC West with the Raiders on the come up, but like the NFC North, I can see any one of those 4 teams winning the division. So why not lean into that chaos with a team that has the best price, the best odds? I haven't done it personally. I just want to see McCarthy before it happens. And I'm actually maybe a new, but a little more bullish on the Bears, because I've seen Caleb Williams. I know what that defense is capable of, and I think that offense will be better with Ben Johnson. But that's a public bet, and you're not fooling anyone there. I do think a maybe wise investment could be the Vikings, just because of the chaos in the NFC North.
Yeah, and to Tyler's point, per the Warren Sharp strength of schedule stuff, which adjusts for win totals, Vegas win totals, Vikings do have the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5th toughest schedule in the entire NFL. Speaking of, I want to stay on the NFC North here, Evan. I know you've mentioned this one before, but one of the reasons that I think Evan at least is high on the Vikings is low on the Lions. So one that Evan has here is Lions to miss the playoffs at plus 185. As always, please shop this stuff, especially if you're going off of Evan's lines. He refuses, despite my pleas, refuses to shop for the best price. But yeah, Evan, I think, low Lions, high Vikings is a correlated bet that maybe can make some sense. Go ahead on the Lions stuff.
Yeah, and leaning into that chaos again, I think that the Lions could take a potentially large step back this year. Everybody saw that Frank Ragnow, one of the best centers in the NFL, just retired. Both of their coordinators are gone. Ben Johnson and Aaron Glenn immediately got – they were two of the most sought-after head coaching candidates in the NFL. And you want to talk about tough schedules, the Lions have an even tougher schedule than the Vikings this year.
Yep, third toughest,
Yeah, so I think that this could be more like a 9 or 10 win team this year in arguably the toughest division in the NFL. And so I like that at plus 185 or plus 200, wherever it is, shop around, whatever. The Vikings to miss the playoffs.
The Lions to miss the playoffs. Yeah. And that's going to be one that's anti-public, right, Tyler? Like you are not. That's one that I think maybe some sharp people maybe could be on. I haven't really heard much about it, but it's definitely not a public play at all.
Dan Campbell's biting kneecaps, having fun. Jahmyr Gibbs is like the most exciting, running back for you to draft in fantasy. I mean, they have Amon-Ra, they have JMO. So, I mean, they're an exciting, fun team, and we've seen them build to a legit contender over multiple stages, over multiple years. So it's comfortable to bet on that continuing. But Evan makes a great point about the brain drain with Ben Johnson and Aaron Glenn. And that's what happens when these teams start getting good. Not only are you picking from their roster, but you're picking from their coaching staffs. And not to say that I don't think Dan Campbell can do it, but I want to see proof of concept that he can replenish those coordinators on his staff.
All right. Let's go to Tyler's first one here. Has some thoughts on the Cowboys. Go ahead on your Cowboys takes, Tyler.
I mean, I hate it because Cowboys fans are disgusting human beings. They're just god-awful humans that stretch coast to coast, and they're always on social media and in your ear about this is the year. But I will say, when I opened up ESPN Bet, and Evan, sidebar, like, I get it. Sometimes we don't have time to look at multiple shops. I can only talk about one shop on my show. You got to go out and mow the grass, bro. You don't have time to be looking for multiple shops like Evan or like Adam does. I mean, so I get it, bro. But on ESPN Bet, I saw 7.5 wins posted for the Cowboys, and I said, man, that seems low. And I will also admit it's a disgusting feeling investing your hard-earned American dollars on a team coached by Brian Schottenheimer, because I think he's completely clueless as a coordinator. He's proven that in his career, and now you're asking him to be a head coach. I have very little faith in him. However, they're going to play a very easy third-place schedule, and basically, if you look at Dak Prescott's career, if he has been able to finish the season or play, 12-plus games, every single year, the Cowboys have won at least 8 games. The only 2 seasons they've won less than 8 games when Dak has been a starting quarterback is when he's missed substantial time due to injury. And last year was that case. So, again, I hate Brian Schottenheimer. I hate the Cowboys. But from a pure investment standpoint, I think 7.5 is way too low for a team that's quarterbacked by Dak Prescott.
Yeah. One thing about Schottenheimer was I thought that he actually wanted to throw more and not be a boomer in Seattle. And Pete Carroll and those guys.
He let Russ cook.
And he wanted to let Russ cook, and Pete Carroll and those guys wanted to pull the reins back in on it. So I think we're going to see.
Russ was cooking, if you remember, for the first 12 or 13 games of the season.
Yeah, I mean, so my point generally is I think this team is going to throw a lot, and I think they'll actually be successful throwing the ball and throwing a lot as long as Dak stays healthy. Dak, George Pickens, and CeeDee Lamb. And to that point, Thorman submitted Cowboys over 399.5 regular season points as one of the props that is out there. Again, Cowboys over 399.5 regular season points in the 6 years with Dak, and Tyler was referring to this also. They've hit this 4 times. In the 2 years that they didn't, Dak missed more than half the season. So I'm not sure how good the Cowboys are going to be, but I do agree they're going to score a lot of points. Evan, any thoughts on Cowboys season coming up?
Completely with you on that. I think that the Cowboys are going to score a lot of points, period. I think they're going to have to. The one thing that worries me about the Cowboys from a win total standpoint is their defense. But that's going to contribute to them having to score points. They are loaded on the offensive line. I mean, their offensive line is flush with first-round picks. I don't think that they're going to be able to run the ball particularly well with the cast of characters that they have assembled in the backfield. And they went out and they got George Pickens, was a really, really big addition on the outside, a guy who can win contested. Dak Prescott has never been the greatest anticipation thrower, but he will throw it up there and let guys win. CeeDee Lamb obviously can win contested as well. So yeah, I mean, I think they're going to score a lot of points. I'm definitely not against over 7.5 wins, but I am concerned about the defense. But I'm betting on this team in fantasy. I particularly like Jake Ferguson this year at tight end, and I like him 14-1 to score 10 or more touchdowns on the year. But yeah, I mean, I think that we're in agreement that this team is going to score points. I think they're going to have to score points.
Yeah, I mean, could easily be a bottom 5 defense and a top 10 offense while playing in luxurious conditions outside of that sun stuff in Jerry World. So yeah, I definitely like them for fantasy.
I will say for their defense, they brought back Matt Eberflus, who may not have worked as a head coach in Chicago, but has coordinated really good defenses throughout his career. And he has obviously maybe the best defensive weapon, or at least one of them in the NFL, in Micah Parsons. So if Parsons is locked in and is able to stay healthy, I think that gives them a floor on defense. And I completely agree with the fact that their offense is 100% built to throw the ball 700 times. And as long as Dak is healthy, 8-9 wins to me seems like a floor. And I think they could flirt with the playoffs as a wild card team. That's 2-1 plus 200 at ESPN bet. In the NFC, it's top heavy with division leaders, but the wild card is wide open. And I think Dallas has at least a proof of concept with their roster that if Dak is healthy, they can compete for one of those spots.
And to back up your point on Matt Eberflus, although he was a failure as a head coach in Chicago, his defenses were always good.
Yeah.
And after he got fired last year, their defense kind of fell off a cliff. So,
yeah,
there is data that suggests that Matt Eberflus is a true difference maker and that maybe he can help make this defense just average, in which case, assuming that they do have to score a lot of points, they play average defense, the Cowboys will get over 7.5 wins.
All right. I'm going to go to another NFC team for mine. And I typically like to look for longer shots in the NFC because the quarterback situation in the AFC is just so much better, right? It's hard to see you overcoming Mahomes, Lamar, Burrow, Allen in the AFC as a long shot. However, in the NFC, I find it to be way more wide open. Panthers win division plus 450 is out there. Now, I'm not in love with this. I don't think it's the likeliest outcome, but I think what we saw from Bryce Young late last year, combine that with another year in the Dave Canales scheme, they get Ted McMillan. There's hope. I mean, over the final 10 games of last season, Bryce Young was PFF's number 6 quarterback behind only Burrow, Lamar, Herbert, Allen, and Penix. Penix was on a small sample. But really, the bigger bet that I want to make is this division. I mean, who are the Bucks? Who are the Falcons? Who are the Saints? 10 wins got this division done last year. 9 or 10 wins could win this division this year, I think, again. So it's if you want to bet on chaos, bad chaos is in the NFC South versus good chaos in the NFC North. I think Bryce Young can take a leap. I've been taking a decent amount of backdoor Bryce Young stuff in the best ball streets as well. Evan, any thoughts on Panthers' outlook here in the NFC South?
Actually, I think the analysis is somewhat similar to the Cowboys in that this defense could be absolute horrible. I mean, it could be horrible.
Again.
But that is a theme with a lot of teams in the NFC South. I think that the Buccaneers have major problems on defense. The Falcons are probably going to have major problems on defense again. This is going to be a shootout division, I think. And I think that the Panthers are going to have their say in it. It's not one that, I identified, but I can hear it. I think that this is another division that could have a lot of chaos.
For sure. Tyler, any thoughts on the NFC South or the Panthers?
Yeah, I agree that the NFC South is wide open. I don't think the Falcons have done anything to show that, Penix is for sure a, franchise caliber quarterback, or that their defense is fixed. And then will Baker be able to sustain his success in Tampa with the absence of Liam Cohen? In that division, though, I feel real comfortable about making a bet that the Saints have the fewest wins of any team in the NFL. You can bet that at ESPN Bet. I think it's around 5-1 or 6-1. They're not even the favorite in that market, which kind of surprises me, given what we know their quarterback situation to be. It's either going to be Tyler Shuck, who is a very old NFL prospect who had injury issues in college and was not a legit top 10 type of talent, or Spencer Rattler, who was a mid-round pick last year. The offense, okay, is Chris Olave going to stay healthy with his concussion issues? We know Taysom Hill won't be there to give us those spike weeks at tight end. Alvin Kamara is a year older, and their offensive line and defense have taken major hits because of the way they've managed the cap over the last 5 to 10 years. So I think this is really a prime season for the Saints to bottom out and be a strong contender to have the worst record in the NFL and the number 1 overall pick next year in the draft.
Yes. What is it? Tank for Arch or something like that. What are they saying in New Orleans? I didn't get the slogan down yet, but yes, looks rough for the Saints. There's no doubt on both sides of the ball. There's no doubt about that. All right. Tyler just talked about least wins in the NFL, mentioned Saints at 5-1. Evan has most wins in the NFL. Go ahead on your take for most wins in the NFL. Long shot here, Evan.
The San Francisco 49ers. I think that this is it's a buy low opportunity on San Francisco. They're coming off a really, really down year. They were beset by injuries. The 49ers have double-digit wins in 4 of their previous 5 seasons and at least 12 wins in 3 of those 4. We know that we're going to get them really well coached by Kyle Shanahan and company. They had major talent injections on defense because they used like a ton of their draft on defense. They hammered their defense in the draft. And they got the Brock Purdy situation settled, and they have the softest schedule in the NFL according to both projected win totals and last year's record. So I think this is a team that just bounces back, wins like 13 or 14 games. At 13-1, you can get them to have the most wins in the NFL. And I'm particularly excited about Ricky Pearsall. Just listening to Matt Harmon after breaking down Ricky Pearsall's final 4 games, he was a consistent winner against man coverage. We know that he was drafted to play that sort of Deebo Samuel role. Deebo Samuel is gone. Brandon Ayuk, it sounds like he's like definitely going to start the season on reserve PUP. I was actually looking at the offensive player of the year market for Ricky Pearsall. Ricky Pearsall is not even listed in the OPOY market on DraftKings. Get it together, Jason Robbins. I know that you're listening. Devon Vele is lined for offensive player of the year. Ricky Pearsall was a first-round pick last year, guys. This guy took lead to the chest and made it out. If I guess shop around, try to find Ricky Pearsall to win Offensive Player of the Year.
Yeah, to be clear, Evan found a 13-1 out there on most wins in the NFL this year for San Francisco 49ers. I guess your take, Evan, I think is an outlier take just on their defense. I have seen some defensive rankings that have the 49ers as like one of the worst defense in the entire NFL, which surprised me a little bit considering the investments they made in the draft. I assume Nick Bosa
and Fred Warner
Fred Warner are both back healthy. So, I'm kind of torn on 49ers defense, but I just know there's a lot of people out there that think their defense going to be absolutely atrocious. Tyler, any more thoughts on 49ers here?
Yeah, one of those big brains projecting that is my buddy Mike Clay, who had them as like the 32nd ranked defensive unit in the NFL in his unit projections that came out a few weeks ago. And while I think that might be a little harsh because they do still have that top end talent, and they brought back Robert Saleh to be the coordinator, who had a lot of success there previously. And we know for whatever issues there were in New York with Saleh, it wasn't the defense when he was there. They couldn't score. In fact, when he left, and Jeff Ulbrich took over as the interim head coach, that defense fell apart. So I know Saleh can coach the defense. I know there's talent on that defense, but I am concerned that they're not going to be a top half of the unit. They could league or top half of the league unit. They could be bottom half of the league unit. And when I look at that division, they are favored to win it. And I just don't know if that lines up for me. I mean, I'll admit rose-colored glasses, full disclosure, I am a Rams fan. Being from St. Louis, I still cheer for them, even though Stan Kroenke's a POS and pulled them out of my hometown there. But I think the Rams profile more as a division winner, having done it last year, adding to what they did on both sides of the ball, Poona Ford, Devontae Adams, the growth of that defensive line. Maybe they'll be adding Jalen Ramsey. That's another outcome that, if it happens, could move the market a little bit in the Rams' favor. But I just think while the offense you can bank on in San Francisco, I think you're right about Pearsall, Juwan Jennings, Brandon Ayuk when he comes back, CMC. These are guys in best ball that I'm taking a lot of, and I think you're getting good value on right now. I am concerned that the team overall is not going to bounce back from a disastrous season to yet again, like the cream of the crop in the NFC.
The 49ers are relying a lot on rookies on defense. I mean, I'll definitely give you that. They used a first-round pick, a second-round pick, 2 third-round picks, a fourth-round pick, and a fifth-round pick on defense. So the 49ers know that they had to make adjustments on defense, and there's no data for Mike Clay to use to make a solid projection because these guys haven't even played in the NFL.
I think that's a big part of what colored his projection is like with that uncertainty with all the rookies. He's got to drop them maybe more than they deserve to.
On the Rams, Tyler mentioned Rams win division, something around plus 175, plus 180s are out there on the Rams to win the division. With Devontae Adams and Puka Nacua and Matthew Stafford, they are going to throw the ball effectively, right? Like, we know they're going to throw the ball effectively. We shall see. On defense, I do think Jared Verse is, total freak. So I'm certainly not opposed to that. I mean, those conditions for the Rams last year in that NFC game against the Eagles was not ideal for them, and they still almost beat the Eagles, who many consider to be one of the better teams we've seen in a long time. So yeah, definitely live there for the Rams. I agree with that. Okay, let's go to Tyler. Let's go to the AFC North here. You have a take on the Bengals. Go ahead on that one.
Yeah, similar to the take you guys had, I think, Evan, earlier on the Lions. Like, the Bengals to miss the playoffs again is plus 135. And I know everyone is excited about them signing long-term Jamar Chase, T. Higgins. The offense is going to be great. Their offensive line should be even a little bit better. In their run game, Chase Brown emerged last year as a guy you can rely on as a workhorse. But that defense is a significant problem. Like, Trey Hendrickson hates the team. Shamar Stewart, the first-round draft pick, hates the team. What are the vibes like in that locker room? Like, I can imagine some defensive players, this is probably an exaggeration, but like looking at the offensive side of the ball, I'm like, what the, you guys get all the money. What about us over here? And they're lose Lou Anarumo. We'll see if Al Golden helps as a defensive coordinator. They're pitching that he is a college coach so he can connect more with the young guys on defense. That seems flimsy to me, but the market views the Bengals as a surefire playoff team in the AFC because of Burrow and that offense. But I think that defense is a significant problem, maybe even more so this year than it was last year. And when you look around the AFC, like, I see 3 to 4 playoff contenders in the AFC West. I see, the Ravens as clear-cut division favorites in this division. The Steelers are always there. Who knows what happens in the AFC South and who, besides the Bills in the AFC East, is going to be legit. We'll get to one of those teams in a little bit here, but like, there's only so many spots left for the Bengals if they don't win the division, and I don't think they're going to win the division even with that offense. So at plus 135 to miss the playoffs again, like, I'll bank on that with that defense.
Yeah.
The vibes in Cincinnati, as you mentioned, they cannot be good right now. I mean, and it's not just the stuff that you mentioned. It's like Jermaine Pratt, who was a tenured player for them, led them in tackles this past year, really respected player in the locker room. They waited like 4 months after he should have been cut to cut him. I mean, that is just like ridiculous. I mean, even the beat writers were all over and the beat writers are usually pretty nice in Cincinnati. They were ripping the Bengals for letting that linger 4 months longer than it should have been. And then, as you mentioned, they're relying on a college defensive coordinator to try to turn around this defense. I don't see it defensively. The thing is that they're going to score points.
Yeah,
they are loaded on offense, but their defense should be among the worst in the league again.
One of the things about Cincy every year is slow starts, right? And they're at least aware of this now. I've been reading a bunch of stuff. They are trying to do things differently in camp and maybe even in preseason games so that they don't start so slow. That would make a big difference for them, I feel like, because they always seem to be starting 1-3, 0-3, 1-4, stuff like that. And maybe they can get out to a bit of a hotter start here. But yeah, certainly anything in the AFC is going to be tough for sure. Speaking of long shots in the AFC, the Patriots stuff. So I got plus 750 on them to win the division about a month ago. That's down to around plus 625. I saw the best price out there. Now, there is some Patriots make playoffs out there at plus 165 here as well. I think Evan and I both think Mike Vrabel is a talent maximizer. Remember the first year he gets to Tennessee, he wins 9 games with Marcus Mariota and Blaine Gabbert. Then he wins 9 games with Ryan Tannehill and Mariota. Then he goes 11-5. Then he wins 12 games with Ryan Tannehill. Not like the most talented teams you've ever seen. And like, yeah, I don't think that the Patriots suddenly have a really good wide receiver core or suddenly have a really good offensive line, but they are way better there than they were last year. And then I think definitely a top 10 defense, you know, Christian Gonzalez and Carlton Davis. So with Drake May, with the improvements on offensive line, improvements at wide receiver, I can at least see it as a long shot on Patriots stuff here. I'm not saying it's the likeliest, but that's why you're getting these really long prices on Patriots stuff. Any more thoughts on New England here? I'll let Tyler go first.
Yeah, when I saw this, you know, in your notes that you sent, Adam, I kind of was like, oh, dude, that's out there. And when I looked at ESPN Bet and saw that their win total was 8.5, I did a double take there again. That seems high for a team that I'm high on Drake May. Yeah, I'm high on Drake May, and I agree 100% with the take that Mike Vrabel is a talent maximizer, and they are going to be a much more buttoned up operation this year than they were last year. With 8.5, I was like, holy, that's crazy. But listen, in the AFC East, you mentioned this line earlier that's an ETR favorite. I didn't use it, Adam, but I'll borrow it here again. Betting on the Bills to win the division yet again is double condom with your wife. Betting on the Patriots to win this division is sliding into Sidney Sweeney's DMs, baby. Like, what have you got to lose here? Like, yeah, it's a long shot. It's not going to work, but bro, like, it's going to be fun trying to watch Drake May, first and foremost, rooting him to, like, you know, overtake Josh Allen in this division. He's just like a fun quarterback to watch play. They do have some, you know, exciting young players, Travion Henderson, Kyle Williams, who they drafted. We'll see if any of those guys emerge. And Vrabel's always fun to watch because of the way that he coaches. So, like, I personally am not that ballsy, but if anyone wants to, you know, again, slide in Sydney's DMs like this, I'm all for it.
Yeah.
Because the Patriots will be a fun team to watch.
I will say, you mentioned 49ers with the easiest schedule far and away. Patriots' second easiest schedule here in the league coming up. Evan, any more thoughts on Patriots stuff?
Yeah, I mean, I've talked about this on a bunch of shows. I think that the Patriots are going to make the biggest leap this year in terms of win total from last year. By the way, Drake May, I talked about him, I think it was on the Ryan Reynolds show, as 80-1 to win MVP. And then I got some response from some commenter telling me I'm like an idiot or something for 80-1. Guess what? Now he's down to 45-1. So good job missing that closing line value, guy. Also, this defense in New England, I mean, I think it could be the best in the league. They signed Milton Williams, dog. Christian Barmore is back, healthy, dog. Christian Gonzalez, dog. Carlton Davis, Robert Spillane is a dog at middle linebacker. The Patriots are going to be really freaking good on defense. And if they can get any semblance of competent offensive line play, I was just hanging out with Brandon Thorne, and we're talking about the Patriots offensive line, and he's still pretty worried about it. That's your really big obstacle. But I think you got a playmaker at quarterback, a defense full of dogs, and I think the Patriots are going to win a lot more games this year than they did last year. I think they could win 9 or 10 games.
Yeah, seems like market is on this a little bit, right? And so some of the value may have been sucked out of the Patriots stuff here. Seems like a lot of sharp people seem to move the market here on the Patriots already. One that Amico submitted that I thought was interesting and worth talking about was Titans over 5.5 wins. Titans do have the 8th easiest schedule, at least defensively. I mean, even last year, the Titans were 8th in yards per play allowed. A lot of this comes down to what you think of Cam Ward. And we haven't talked a lot about Cam Ward. Evan, you know, it feels similar to CJ Stroud to me, where like people didn't know what to think about CJ Stroud? Was he going to actually come in and really, really help the team, or is he just going to be a game manager? I kind of feel like people are in a holding pattern in the same way in Cam Ward. I personally don't have a take on the Titans or Cam Ward yet, but yeah, Evan, any thoughts on this 5.5 number for the Titans and Cam Ward in terms of real football for this year?
Yeah, I think it's just so low that it definitely makes some sense. I don't know. This is an Amico pick. I think that the offensive line has a chance to take a pretty big step in the second year of Bill Callahan. I mean, they have talent on the offensive line now. They added Kevin Zeitler. Skoronski's entering his third season. He was a first-round pick. Lloyd Cushenberry and J.C. Latham moving. I know that Dan Moore is not considered, a top even 20 left tackle in the NFL, but having him to sort of stabilize left tackle and then moving J.C. Latham over to right tackle, which is his natural position, I think the O-line could take a step. I don't love it, but I mean, I get it. 5.5 wins that's not very many.
Yeah, and certainly a reasonably soft division, if not outright soft division here. Tyler, any thoughts on that or anything else you want to get off your chest before we get to some of Silva's week 1 stuff?
Yeah, no, I just echo those sentiments. I think when you're evaluating what a rookie quarterback can do, looking at that infrastructure, starting with the offensive line is a smart place to kind of begin your handicap. And I think there's reasons for optimism that Evan pointed out with that offensive line, not just because of the talent, but because of the coaches. So, I haven't made a play on it, but I would lean more towards the over than the under there at 5.5.
Okay. Evan, the Penix stuff. Yeah. So you mentioned some of these player things. So almost all the books now have who will lead the NFL in passing yards, who will lead the league in rushing, receiving yards this season. There's certainly some long shot stuff available there. Evan mentioned Penix 30-1 to lead the NFL in pass yards. Go ahead on that one, Evan.
Plays indoors. I think he's going to throw a lot. I like the scheme with Zach Robinson. You look at Michael Penix, the performance of those Washington receivers. You remember they had 3 wide receivers drafted in the top 3 rounds. The performance of Rome Odunze, Jalen Polk was completely non-existent. Jalen McMillan was the best of them. That suggests to me that Michael Penix was the reason for those guys' success at the college level. Even their coordinator at Washington, Ryan Grubb, he lasted 1 year in the NFL. So that suggests to me that Michael Penix maybe is really good. And then I think he's going to throw the ball a lot. That's really what you're looking for. Is a quarterback who can lead the NFL in passing yards. I mean, Jameis Winston led the NFL in passing yards. Michael Penix, I think, can do it at 30-1. I'll take it.
Yeah, I had Geno Smith in this market last year, and he got close, man. And it was like a real long shot, and he got close. So this is definitely a fun market. Tyler, any more thoughts on this market here with the most passing yards in the NFL?
No, I had Penix written down, and I think this was 40-1, 50-1 earlier in the summer. So I don't know if Evan is moving the market there with the way he's been talking about it. But conversely, I would add Drake London at 30-1 to lead the NFL in receiving yards. I think he could be, a supreme alpha if Michael Penix is throwing that ball as much. There's still no great 1B beside him. Darnell Mooney's good. Kyle Pitts is what is Kyle Pitts? We're still kind of wait and see, but I could see 180, 200 targets for Drake London at 30-1. I think he's a decent value. I think you can buy low on Tyreek at 18-1. He should be probably, if this was going into last year, he'd be well south of 10-1 in this market, but I don't think Tyreek's lost any speed. I think he was hurt last year and there was infrastructure problems with that offense, but if he's healthy and that offense and Tua stays healthy, I think he could once again lead the league in receiving yards. And Breece Hall is the running back I had at 30-1 to lead the NFL in rushing yards, just because they're going to absolutely run the piss out of the football in New York. And he at 30-1 feels like a decent bet.
Yeah. I've had the fade on Tyreek early in the best ball stuff, and people are sending me videos of Tyreek running 100-yard dashes, and he challenged I forget the guy who's the current fastest man in the world.
I show speed.
Yeah,
I show speed.
But he also challenged the Olympic guy, and apparently the Olympic guy backed out. He was supposed to run against Tyreek, and then he saw that video that he did against the speed guy, and he backed out of it. So yeah, maybe Tyreek still has the juice. I don't know, man. We'll see on that for sure. Okay, before we get out of here, Silva, being the sick puppy that he is himself, has already looked at week 1 opening lines. I don't even know who's playing each other yet in week 1, but Evan has already looked at the lines. Any you want to get off your chest here, Evan, for week 1 NFL?
Yeah, I got a few. I like the Chargers to cover 3 at home against the Chiefs. I mean, I think that the Chargers could win that game outright. I like the Bucks at the Falcons to go over 48.5 points. This game will be indoors in Atlanta. We just talked about the Bucks and the Falcons being offensive oriented, not defensive oriented teams, and indoors bad defenses. First division game, let's go. And then I liked the Dolphins. I'm going to skip that one. The Vikings only favored by 1.5 against the Bears in week 1. I'd like some takes from you guys on this one because I think that the Vikings are a lot better team than the Bears. I think the Bears could maybe hit their stride 4 or 5 games into the season and live up to expectations that people are optimistic about them currently hold. But I think out the gate, the Vikings are in a lot better position. I think they should be able to cover 1.5 against the Bears. I realize it's in Chicago. The people are going to be amped, but the Vikings are a lot better team, I think.
I hadn't looked at the schedule, so I didn't know that's who the Vikings were playing in week 1 yet. However, I was going to mention the Vikings along with the Titans, the maybe Saints, maybe Browns, depending on who their quarterback is, as teams to bet against in week 1, because there is a pretty strong trend of rookie quarterbacks, in their first start, failing to cover numbers. And this goes back, the last 10, 12 years. I'll have my ESPN researchers dig it up so I can bring it back to you. But do we count JJ McCarthy as a rookie? Like, how do we? That's a unique situation. But if it's his first start, I'd be more inclined to bet against him. You said the game's in Chicago?
Yeah.
Yeah, on the road, rookie first start. That's a tough buy for me.
We just need to get JJ McCarthy running with that 4.48 40 and the 6.82 3-cone time.
I think it matters that JJ McCarthy's been in the NFL now for 18 months rather than 4 months before he makes his first start. I think that matters. He's going to really, really know the system and be comfortable. Obviously, it's still a tall task. First NFL start on the road in Chicago. But yeah, I think that just goes back to Evan and I are higher than market on Minnesota generally, and that's going to flow through to almost all of the Minnesota stuff for sure. All right. That is going to do it for our look at NFL team level futures for 2025. Really appreciate the time. Tyler, tell the people where they can find you and all of your work.
Yeah, ESPN Bet Live is on Monday through Friday, 6:30 Eastern on ESPN2. I hop on SportsCenter 2 p.m., 5 p.m., 6 p.m. as well as a betting analyst. And you can follow me on X at Tyler_Fulghum, Fulghum.
All right. For Tyler, for Evan, producer Ryan, for producer Luke, I'm Adam. Oh, be sure you watch the YouTube video to see how Evan's lighting improved. Good luck, everybody.